From beyond the veil of the Force, infinite paths stretch before us. Choices made and unmade, destinies fulfilled and averted. Today, we explore one such path. What if Anakin Skywalker, at the moment of his greatest humiliation, chose defiance over submission? What if the Chosen One refused to be anyone's pawn? The bronze sunlight of Coruscant's artificial dawn had barely touched the spires of the Jedi Temple when Mace Windu delivered his verdict. The Council granted Anakin Skywalker a seat among them, but denied him the rank of Master, a calculated insult wrapped in false honor. It was a compromise born of political necessity, Chancellor Palpatine's request colliding with the Council's deeply rooted mistrust. Around the circular chamber, 12 pairs of eyes watched the hero of the Republic as his mechanical hand tightened into a fist. The servos whirred softly, a metallic whisper of restraint. Everyone expected the explosion, the legendary Skywalker temper finally unleashed. Some council members had already prepared their responses, their arguments about attachment and the importance of humility. But something had changed within him. When Anakin drew breath and spoke, his words felt like stones into still water. "I refuse this seat," he said quietly. "If I cannot speak as a master, then I will not sit as decoration." The chamber erupted. Windu's hand moved to his lightsaber. Obi-Wan leapt to his feet. "Anakin, think about what you're doing!" But Anakin simply turned and walked out, his final words hanging in the air. "I already have, Master. Perhaps for the first time." His robes swirled like storm clouds as he departed, leaving 12 of the galaxy's most powerful beings in stunned silence. The aftermath rippled through the temple like a seismic wave. Yoda's ears drooped, the ancient Jedi suddenly looking every one of his 900 years. Ki-Adi-Mundi demanded the insubordination be addressed immediately, but it was Obi-Wan's response that silenced them all. A passionate defense questioning everything the Order had become, asking why they'd driven the Chosen One away. 3 levels down, Anakin found Captain Rex in the training halls. The conversation that followed changed everything. Rex revealed what Fives had died trying to expose: inhibitor chips implanted in every clone, with purposes far darker than the official explanation suggested. "Follow me, General," Rex said quietly. "But what I'm about to show you contradicts everything we were told." In a secured room, Rex produced a small vial containing one such chip, extracted from the fallen clone, Tup. Anakin held it to the light, the Force screaming warnings through every fiber of his being. These need to come out. All of them. The implications were staggering. Millions of clone troopers, each carrying a hidden protocol that could be activated at any moment. Rex's voice was steady but urgent. "If we're doing this, we move fast. I've got maybe 20 men I trust absolutely. 20 men, out of thousands. But it was a start. They would need to move quickly, and they would need a medical droid that operated outside temple oversight." While Anakin planned his next move, 3 floors up, Senator Padmé Amidala convened an emergency meeting with Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. Word of Anakin's refusal had spread quickly through Coruscant's political circles. Some called it treason. Others saw it as the first crack in a structure that had grown dangerously unstable. The trio discussed the implications in hushed tones, their secure room humming with anti-surveillance equipment. Padme's connection to Anakin was dangerous knowledge, but she had grown tired of shadows and secrets. If the Chosen One could stand alone against the entire Jedi Council, then perhaps it was time for others to find their courage as well. Mon Mothma warned of Palpatine's inevitable response. Anakin had been meant as the Chancellor's eyes within the Council, but Padme's smile was sharp and defiant. Not everyone in the galaxy could be bought or controlled, and it was time Palpatine learned that lesson. The seeds of rebellion had been planted, though none of them yet knew how deep the conspiracy truly ran, or how soon they would be forced to act. Enjoying our alternative Star Wars universe? Consider liking and hitting the hype button to show us your support. Don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending tales from the Star Wars universe. The Jedi archives at night were a cathedral of shadows and starlight. Anakin moved through the towering shelves like a ghost, following a path he discovered in Rex's encrypted files, coordinates that led not to a battlefield, but to a restricted section even most masters didn't know existed. A voice emerged from the darkness, aged but sharp. "I've been expecting you, young Skywalker." Anakin's hand flew to his lightsaber, then froze. The figure emerging from the shadows was stooped with age, her face hidden beneath a deep hood, but the force around her sang with knowledge. His voice came out as a shocked whisper. "Jocasta knew?" The chief librarian's laugh was like ancient parchment rustling. "Did you imagine I spent decades surrounded by these records without uncovering their deepest secrets?" She moved closer, her footsteps nearly silent. When Jedi Masters abandon the Order, whether through exile or falling to darkness, someone must catalog what remains of their collections. Count Dooku left behind quite an archive when he departed. Her voice dropped to barely more than a breath. "Materials that should have been destroyed by protocol, but I chose preservation. I was waiting for the right moment, for someone who would understand." She led him deeper, past security systems that seemed to ignore their presence, into a vault that hummed with the kind of energy that made Anakin's teeth ache. Jocasta's whisper held the weight of centuries. "Behold, the archive of last resort. Here, we preserve the truths considered too dangerous for the light of day." The holographic records that sprang to life made Anakin's blood run cold. Jedi corruption dating back centuries, secret alliances with criminal cartels, a group called the Seers of Jedha, systematically hunted and destroyed for suggesting the Jedi had lost their way. But it was the final recording that stopped his heart. Master Sifu Diaz appeared before them, looking haggard and haunted. His voice trembled as he spoke directly to the recorder. "If you're viewing this, then I've been killed, and my darkest fears have come to pass. The clone army I authorized, those behavioral inhibitor chips I required to guarantee loyalty to the Jedi and the Republic, I've uncovered evidence of tampering. The Sith have corrupted the very safeguards I created. The chips now carry contingency protocols I never approved. Commands that could transform our defenders into our executioners." His eyes seemed to stare through time itself, the gift of foresight that had always been his burden, now showing him shadows of catastrophe. "I've concealed the evidence on Kamino, but I fear what I see coming. A moment approaches when a single order will ripple across the stars. I must find and stop the Sith before they can fully weaponize those chips, before they can pervert my creation into our annihilation." The recording dissolved into static. Anakin breathed out slowly, his voice hollow. "By the Force." Jocasta's response was grim as she manipulated the holographic display. "That's merely the beginning. Examine the authorization codes for the Kamino contract." Anakin studied the data, cross-referencing it with what he'd learned from Rex. The patterns began to emerge, and with them, a terrible understanding. He spoke slowly, piecing it together. These Senate authorizations, they're sophisticated forgeries, nearly flawless, but forgeries nonetheless, and the bureaucratic signature patterns. Jocasta finished his thought, her voice heavy with the weight of the discovery. Match precisely one individual in the entire Republic government, someone with sufficient access, knowledge, and authority to orchestrate an operation of this magnitude. Anakin's voice was hollow as the truth settled into his bones. Chancellor Palpatine. Dawn broke over Coruscant as Anakin stood in his secret apartment with an unexpected gathering. Padme, Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and most surprisingly, Ahsoka Tano. Rex had reached out to her, recognizing that Anakin needed someone who'd walked away from the Order and survived. The reunion was emotional but brief. There was no time for sentiment when the galaxy hung in the balance. Padme explained they'd been building a network of those who supported the truth but lacked proof. Military officers, questioning Jedi, concerned senators, It was a fragile coalition, held together by shared doubts and growing fear of what the Republic was becoming. When Anakin activated the holoprojector displaying Sifo Dyas's warning and the evidence trail to Palpatine, the room fell into heavy silence. The pieces were finally falling into place, revealing a conspiracy that spanned decades. The debate that followed was inevitable. "We must proceed with extreme caution," Mon Mothma warned. "One misstep and one more delay and more people die," Ahsoka interrupted. "The time for caution has passed, but it was Anakin who cut through the discord. No, we do this right, or we are just replacing one tyranny with another. The Jedi failed because they abandoned politics for war." His plan was audacious. Arrange a private meeting with the Chancellor and record a full confession. Padme gripped his arm. "Anakin, if he suspects, he won't," Anakin assured her, producing the recording device. "I'll give him exactly what he expects." The Chancellor's office glowed red in the sunset as Anakin entered. Palpatine wasted no time expressing sympathy for the Council's treatment, speaking of denied knowledge and birthright power. He dangled promises of abilities beyond death itself, the power to save those Anakin loved. It was a masterful performance, decades of manipulation concentrated into minutes. Anakin played his role perfectly, allowing eagerness and bitterness to color his responses, and Palpatine, ever the predator sensing weakness, revealed more with each exchange. He spoke of the Sith not as monsters, but as those who refused to deny half the Force's power. When Anakin pressed about his personal knowledge of such beings, Palpatine's reflection in the window smiled with cold satisfaction. The crimson lightsaber that ignited was meant to be Anakin's signal of corruption. Instead, Anakin stood firm, revealing the trap. "Every word you've spoken is broadcasting right now," he said calmly. "The entire galaxy is listening." Rage twisted the Chancellor's features as his carefully constructed mask shattered. He threatened control of the Senate and courts, but Anakin's response was devastating. "You can't control the truth." The moment Palpatine's hand moved toward his hidden weapon, Mace Windu's voice boomed from the doorway. "Chancellor Palpatine, you're under arrest for treason." Behind him stood Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Kit Fisto, their unconscious red guards testament to Jedi preparation. Even cornered, Sidious calculated angles and possibilities, but the recording had achieved what no lightsaber could. It had exposed him not in shadow, but in the harsh light of truth, with millions of witnesses across the stars. Palpatine sealed the blast doors with a thunderous crash, trapping the Jedi outside while buying himself precious seconds. His voice rang with cold authority as he activated the protocol that would echo across the galaxy. "Execute Order 66. The inhibitor chips and millions of clone troopers responded instantly, recognizing only voice pattern and command phrase. From the ice fields of Megiddo to the fungal jungles of Felucia, from the spires of the temple to the skies above Cato Neimoidia, the Order activated simultaneously. Anakin staggered as thousands of Force presences began flickering out across the stars like candles in a storm. Palpatine's eyes blazed yellow, lightning sealing the doors with molten metal as he gloated about Jedi dying while their masters wasted time with arrests. His crimson blade ignited, bathing the office in blood-red light. For all his careful planning, he couldn't suppress the savage joy of watching his centuries-old plan finally unfold. But Anakin held firm. The broadcast continued on every frequency, the confession reaching billions of beings across civilized spaces. That uncertainty in Sidious's eyes revealed everything. His grand design had always depended on controlling the narrative. When Mace and Yoda shattered through the window, forcing an alternate entry with Obi-Wan and Kit Fisto flanking them, the duel began in earnest. The office became a maelstrom of clashing blades and force lightning. At the temple, Captain Rex froze as Order 66 displayed on his heads-up display. The chip tried overriding his will, But Fives' warning had taken deep root enough to crystallize into resistance. Every muscle locked in conflict, his programming warring with his consciousness. "No, not doing this," Rex ground out. His voice strained as he fought against his own body. Around him, only Jesse and Kix, both close to Fives, managed similar defiance. 3 against thousands. Rex positioned himself between advancing brothers and fleeing younglings, unable to shoot his own, but buying precious seconds. Every moment of resistance felt like fighting against gravity itself. He pleaded desperately with the trooper advancing on the children. "Brother, remember who you are!" The trooper who'd once painted his helmet in Ahsoka's colors hesitated just long enough for the younglings to vanish into maintenance shafts. That single moment of humanity might have saved a dozen lives. Ahsoka arrived like a whirlwind from the lower levels, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Maintenance Shaft 7! Move now!" She deflected bolts while directing Padawans through escape routes Anakin had discovered years ago. There were no pre-arranged evacuations, just desperate improvisation against a nightmare made real. In Palpatine's office, Sidious unleashed a millennium of Sith knowledge against the Order's finest. Yoda countered raw power with ancient wisdom. Mace's Vapad turned darkness back upon itself. Anakin maintained the broadcast, ensuring truth survived even if they didn't. The Sith Lord raged about inevitable Jedi annihilation, but Mace pressed forward with grim determination. In his fury to silence Anakin's transmission, Sidious left himself exposed for a critical instant. Yoda's blade found its mark. Darth Sidious fell with the scream that reverberated through the Force itself. Yet his death didn't stop Order 66. The chips executed their programming regardless, but something fundamental had shifted. Across the galaxy, beings who'd heard the broadcast began sheltering Jedi. Clone commanders found strength to resist. The perfect purge became messy civil conflict. Back at the temple, Rex finally succumbed, tears streaming as he raised his blaster. Ahsoka's stun bolt caught him mid-chest. She whispered apologies as she caught his falling form, promising to flee them all somehow. The Jedi Order would emerge decimated, but not destroyed. And in the ashes of Palpatine's failed coup, the true seeds of rebellion took root. The galaxy didn't heal overnight. The Clone Wars ground to an exhausted halt rather than a clean victory. With Dooku dead, slain aboard the Invisible Hand weeks before Anakin's refusal, and Grievous eliminated in Palpatine's final desperate days, the Separatist systems found themselves fearless and confused. Some fought on for months, refusing to believe the war could simply end. Others, freed from Sith manipulation, sent delegates to Coruscant to negotiate. The Republic, shaken to its core by the revelation of Palpatine's treachery, could barely maintain order, let alone dictate terms. And the Jedi faced their greatest trial. The rebuilding took time. Survivor lists were compiled with heavy hearts. Every name confirmed alive felt like a victory. Every absence cut deep. Memorial services were held across 100 worlds for Jedi who'd given everything in service to a republic that had turned on them. Medical teams worked around the clock, removing inhibitor chips from clone troopers, restoring their free will one surgery at a time. Rex coordinated the effort with fierce determination, ensuring his brothers would never be slaves again. Some clones, their minds fractured by what they'd been forced to do, required counseling that would take years. The psychological toll of Order 66 would ripple through generations. In the months that followed, debates raged within the rebuilt council about the Order's future. Some argued for returning to their traditional role. Others advocated for complete dissolution. It was a conversation that needed to happen, painful as it was. Ancient holocrons were consulted, seeking wisdom from Jedi who lived through previous crises. Slowly, painfully, a consensus began to emerge. The old ways had failed, and something new must rise from the ashes. When Master Windu finally spoke in formal session, his words carried new weight. Respect hard-won through crisis, perhaps even humility. "Anakin Skywalker," he began, his voice resonant in the rebuilt chamber. "You exposed the truth that saved us all. The Council offers you the rank of Master and a seat among us without reservation." Anakin stood in the center of the chamber, but he wasn't alone. Ahsoka stood at his right, Rex at his left. Behind them gathered Padawans who'd survived Order 66, clone troopers who'd resisted their programming. "I'm honored by the Council's offer," Anakin replied, his voice clear and steady. "But once again, I must respectfully decline. The Jedi were meant to be more than warriors. We were teachers, healers, explorers. I propose we return to those roots." Ahsoka stepped forward, elaborating on their vision. "We've already established training facilities on Outer Rim worlds, places where the Force can be studied without political interference." Yoda listened in thoughtful silence, his ancient eyes seeing futures branching before them. "Dangerous, this new path seems," he finally said, tapping his walking stick softly. "Yet unchanged, remain we cannot. More dangerous still that would be." Obi-Wan's laughter surprised everyone, warm and genuine. "My former Padawan, I don't think we could stop you even if we tried. And frankly, I don't believe we should." The Chosen One had found his destiny, though it looked nothing like the prophecy had predicted. The Academy on Tython was unlike any Jedi facility that had come before. Built into the living rock of the ancient Jedi world, it flowed with the natural Force energies of the planet. Students of all ages and species trained together. Some destined to be knights, others healers, others scholars. The rigid hierarchies of the old order had been replaced with collaborative learning. The curriculum reflected this new philosophy. Younglings studied not just combat forces, but also diplomacy, medicine, engineering, and art. They learned that the Force was vast enough to encompass all paths. Agricultural planets requested Jedi assistance with crop yields. Medical stations welcomed Force healers. Exploration vessels carried Jedi scholars seeking to understand the galaxy's mysteries. Anakin stood on the cliff's edge, watching the binary sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and crimson. His hair had grown longer, touched with premature silver from the trials he'd faced, but his eyes were clear, peaceful in a way they'd never been in his youth. The nightmares that had once plagued him had faded, replaced by dreams of possibilities. A small voice carried out, "Master Skywalker?" He turned to find a young Twi'lek girl, no more than 8, clutching a training saber. Numa had arrived 6 months ago, discovered on a backwater world by Jedi scouts who respected her family's wishes to let her train while maintaining ties to home. Anakin knelt gently. "Numa, I've told you before. Just call me Anakin." The girl's eyes were wide with admiration. "But everyone says you're the greatest Jedi who ever lived. They say you saved everyone." Anakin smiled softly. "I'm not the greatest anything, little one. I'm simply someone who learned to ask the right questions when it mattered most. And more importantly, I've learned to actually listen to the answers I received." Ahsoka's voice carried across the Academy grounds, filled with familiar exasperation. "Skywalker, stop your philosophical rambling and help me with these training droids. The younglings reprogrammed them again, and now they'll only speak ancient Sith." Anakin laughed, a sound that came easily now. He ruffled Numa's Leku affectionately. "Duty calls, it seems. Remember what we discussed in class. The Force isn't about power or control. It's about connection. Connection to yourself, to others, to the entire galaxy." As he walked back toward the Academy, where Padme was teaching a course on galactic politics to the older students, Anakin caught a glimpse of 2 small figures racing across the training grounds. The twins, nearly 10 now, their Force signatures blazing like binary stars. Luke, all eagerness and impulse, trying to levitate 3 rocks at once. Leia, focused and determined, helping a younger student master basic meditation. They didn't have to hide here. They didn't have to be separated, sent to distant worlds for their protection. They could just be children, growing up surrounded by love and learning, by hundreds of brothers and sisters in the Force. Rex was there too, his hair gone completely gray now, but his back still straight, drilling older students in tactical thinking while reminding them that victory without compassion was just another form of defeat. In the end, he hadn't become the chosen one by fulfilling some ancient prophecy. He'd done it by choosing himself, by refusing to be what others demanded, by finding his own path. And in that choice, he'd saved them all. If you enjoyed this journey into an alternative Star Wars universe, where destiny takes unexpected turns and balance means something entirely different, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We explore the infinite possibilities hidden within the galaxy far, far away, asking the questions that reshape everything you thought you knew. The Force has many paths. Come discover them with us.